This week's Parsha, God tells the people what's going to happen. So let's read what's going to happen. Source number 1.
What's going to happen in the future?
Yeah. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. God said to Moshe, Hine shochev im avotecha. He says, your day will come. You're going to be 120. You'll die. And you should know, as soon as that happens, what's going to happen? Vekam ha'am hazeh. In the future, this nation is going to stand up. Vezanach rei elokei nechar haaretz. And he's going to go after the idols of the land. You know, people get influenced by the environment. There's going to be idols in Israel. The nation is going to learn. Asher hu ba shama bekirbo, to the land that he's going to go over there. He's going to learn from the Philistines. He's going to learn from these guys, from that guys. And then what they're going to do? Ve'azavani. That nation is going to leave me. Ve'eferet briti. And they will go against my covenant. Asher karati ito, that I made with him. And you know what I'm going to do? V'chara pi bo bayom hahu. I'm going to be angry in that day. Ve'azavtim. And concentrate on these words. This paragraph is the entire class. Ve'azavtim. And I'm going to leave them. Ve'histarti fanai mehem. And I'm going to hide my face from them. Ve'haya le'echol. He would be consumed. U'matz'uhu ra'ot rabot ve'tzarot. A lot of trouble is going to find him. Ve'amar bayom hahu, and he's going to say on that day, the nation is going to say, Halo al ki en elokai bekirbi. You know why it's happening? Because there's no God amongst us. That's why metzauni haraot haele. That's why all these evils have come upon me. This is the verse. It's an understood verse. There's no questions. Let's say, straight up, right? Nothing to really ask a question. Rashi, as a 5-year-old, Rashi says immediately, a 5-year-old is going to ask a question. What is the 5-year-old question? Let's see. Rashi is going to say, Vehestarti fanai. Rashi says, a 5-year-old is not going to understand the words, and I hid my face. Why not? I'm not sure. With this on. And Rashi explains, you know what it means, I hid my face? It means, kemo she'eini ro'eh betzaratam. It's as if I don't see their distress. That's what it means. I hid my face means as if I don't see in their trouble. That's what Rashi says. So let's start dissecting what's going on over here. צריך להבין. We need to understand. גם לולי פירוש רש"י. Imagine Rashi wouldn't be here. Rashi will not explain it. How would you learn it? מבין חמש למקרא את פירוש התיבות והסתרתי פניי. Excuse me, a 5-year-old, when he reads this verse, and he reads that God hid his face, he understands what it means to hide your face. That's right, he hid his face. שהקדוש ברוך הוא יסתיר את פניו. That's what he imagines. What's wrong with that imagination? Why Rashi, you say as if, why you have to explain it? ואם כן, if this is so, לשמה צריך להוסיף רש"י ביאור בתיבות אלה. It says, why does Rashi go out of the way tell you, no, don't think that. This is what it means. And I also don't quite see in what Rashi says how much different it is. It's almost the same. What is Rashi explaining? And second thing we need to understand, מדוע כותב רש"י, why does Rashi write, כמו שאיני רואה בצרתם, as if I don't see their trouble. הרי בפסוק לא נכתב הלשון כהדמיון. In the verse it says, I hid my face. It doesn't say as if I hid my face. It specifically says, I hid my face. How does Rashi know it's as if he hid his face? ואם כן, מאין לו לרש"י, so if this is so, how does Rashi know לחדש שזהו רק כמו שאינו רואה בצרתם, בכף הדמיון בלבד. It says, hid your face, meaning doesn't see. How do you know he makes himself as if he doesn't see? The verse doesn't say that. The verse says, he hid my face, which means now he cannot see. That's what it means. The Rashi went to say, as if he doesn't see. Where did Rashi get this? Page number 2. והביאור. So the explanation. כאשר הבן 5 למקרא לומד את הפסוק, so we're going to dissect it slowly, and we're going to see the way the Rebbe learns everything is extremely accurate. When the 5-year-old learns this verse, and the verse says, וחרה פי בו ביום, that God is going to be angry in that day, and then he says, ועזבתים, and I left them, and I'm not there anymore. I left them means I'm not there. והסתרתי פניי מהם, and then I hid my face from them, מתעוררת אצלו קושייה. The 5-year-old now has a question. If God left, he doesn't need to. He's not here. He's not here. He doesn't need to hide his face. There's no necessary to hide his face. He's not here. If God left, God left the building. So he's not here. That's it. You don't need to say, I hid my face. If he's not here, it's obvious. ועזבתים, and I left, פירושו, what does that mean? שהקדוש ברוך הוא עוזב את בני ישראל, it means that he leaves them, God forbid, הולך למקום אחר, and he goes to another way, he ascends to heaven, I don't know, wherever God is. ואינו נמצא ביחד עם בני ישראל, it means he's not together with the Jewish people. ואם כן, מה שייך לומר והסתרתי פניי? So if he's not here, what are you saying? I hid my face. You're not even here to hide your face. You're not even in this area. כאשר הוא נמצא במקום אחר לגמרי, when God is found in some other place. And this is the 5-year-old question. It says the sentence doesn't make sense. So it says, בשלמה כאשר הקדוש. If you're going to tell me God is staying in the room and then he hides his face, now I understand, that makes sense. But if he left, there's no necessary to tell me he hides his face. בשלמה כאשר הקדוש ברוך הוא נמצא באותו מקום, I understand when God is in my room, ביחד עם בני ישראל, together with the Jewish people, שייך שיהיה מעמד ומצב של הסתרתי פניי. It is possible that he's going to hide his face. היינו, שאם היות שנמצא ביחד עמם, that even though God is together with the Jewish people, הרי הוא מסתיר את פניו מהם. He is in such a manner that he says, you guys are not going to look at me. Yeah? We're not going to be together. As if I'm not here. אבל כאשר הוא נמצא במקום אחר, but when he's finding himself in another place, מה שייך לומר והסתרתי פניי מהם? How does it make sense to the 5-year-old when I say, and I'm going to hide my face? Nobody knows if you're hiding your face to somewhere else. So that's why Rashi comes and explains. That's the question that Rashi is trying to tell the 5-year-old. What? ולכן מוכרח רש"י לבאר את הפירוש, so therefore Rashi is forced to say, כמו שאיני רואה בצרתם. It is as if I don't see their trouble. What does that mean? We see soon. באופן הבא. So this is what God is actually saying. גם כאשר הקדוש ברוך הוא נמצא במקום אחר, משום שעזבתים. This is how Rashi explained it. Even when God is somewhere else, he left them. ייתכן מעמד ומצב שהוא מביט ומסתכל עליהם. It is possible that he looks at them. Aryeh leaves the room over here, and you say, he doesn't know, he's not, if he left the room, everybody knows for sure that Aryeh is not looking, right?
But maybe I'm from the window.
Oh, very good. See the camera over there? Aryeh has an app on his iPhone. He doesn't have iPhone, he's on his Android, and he checks, he can, even though he's not in the room, he can check on what's happening in the room. So the same thing with God. Even though he left, he can actually still look at what's happening. He's gone, and he has ways, like Wi-Fi, to look at what's happening in the world with the Jewish people. וייתכן ומצב של הסתרתי פניי. So right now, because there's a camera, we might know that somebody is looking. But it's possible to hide the camera, and then nobody knows that what? That God is looking. This is what והסתרתי פניי. By the way, it doesn't say והסתרתי פניי, and I hid my face. Can everybody see the extra word over there? והסתרתי פניי מהם. And I hid my face from them. In other words, I'm actually looking, but they don't know that I'm looking. In other words, I'm actually with them. Just the problem is they don't know that I'm with them. That's what's happening. Okay.
Like a little kid that play in the yard and his father looks from the window, he doesn't know that it looks so far.
Exactly.
Or something.
Exactly that way. Exactly that. Yeah, we've all done it with our kids. Sometimes we want to check how's the kid behaving, so we take a book. The kid doesn't know that we're actually looking at what he's doing. Each and every one of us has done it, I'm sure. But the Rebbe says there's still some things that we need to understand. אבל עדיין צריך להבין הגופה. But says still one needs to understand. מדוע בפסוק זה ישנו עונש חמור כל כך עד שוועזבתים? It says, I don't understand this punishment. The punishment of God left the building, God left the show, God is no longer with them. It says that's a very severe punishment. It's the severest punishment there can be. That God is not together with the Jewish people. There's nothing more severe than that. והביאור בזה. So the explanation for this. בפסוק שלפני זה נאמר, in the previous verse that we read before, it says, וקם העם הזה ועזבני. It says, the truth is that God never leaves the Jewish people. He would never do it. He never left us. The nation left him. That's what happens. Yeah. Yeah. The nation left him. It says, the nation left me. In other words, if a person says, I don't want you to God, God says, okay, so you're not going to get me. You know, since it's actually pertains to us right now, if you talk with people and you say to people, you know why the Jewish land belongs to the Jewish nation? It is because in 1948, a couple of goyim somewhere in the UN decided that maybe we should divide the land amongst Arabs and Jews. And this is why we have the land. In other words, the Jews themselves says the land belongs to us not because of God. God is not in the picture. We are advanced people. We're not, primitive people who are like the Arabs, who believe in, in the scriptures. We're not like that. We're not like these primitive people. We are modern people. The UN decided, so we should do what the UN decided. If, in other words, God didn't leave us, we left him out of the picture. We decided, look, it's hard to say this. Right now, all the Jews in America have awakened. But if you discussed with Jews in America 30 years ago, your situation, how's your situation? They say, thank God, you know what, it's going to be great if God doesn't get involved. Everything is good. We're prosperous. We're the leaders. We're all the best lawyers, all the best doctors, all the best politicians. We're running the show over here. The banks, the only thing. We are here. What can be better? As long as God doesn't get involved, everything is going to be good. In other words, the attitude of the American Jew, I'm not talking about religious, just American Jewry at large was, as long as God doesn't get involved, everything is going fine. Just let it be. God, don't get involved, please. Everything is, we take care of it. In other words, the nation left God. When the nation leaves God, God has a way to bring him back. What is the way to bring him back? It reminds him. There's a reminder. God sends reminders. You think you can get along without God? Let's see. All of a sudden, people over here in America realize, you know what? The land, America, the just country, can turn like this. Can become Nazi Germany in 1 week. Just like COVID changed the world in 1 week. Yeah? America, God forbid, can become Nazi Germany in 1 week. Yeah? If you go to universities, it already is almost there. It's not far. It's not far from being there. It's almost there right now. Yeah? It's not far. So this is why when we leave God, God lets us leave him. He says, you don't want me getting involved? Let's see what happens. And then the natural course of life takes over, and we see what happens. So let's continue. בפסוק שלפני זה, in the previous verse it says, וקם העם הזה, and the nation rose, ועזבני, and he left me. ומאחר, and since, there's a rule with God. Always remember this rule. שהנהגתו של הקדוש ברוך הוא היא באופן של מידה כנגד מידה. God behaves measure against measure. That's the way God behaves. כפי שהבן 5 למקרא למד כבר את הפסוק. Just like the 5-year-old already learned this verse before. כי בדבר אשר זדו עליהם. When it comes to the Egyptians, this is Yitro. When he got excited from God, why did he get excited? He says, look at God, the same way the Egyptians wanted to kill the Jews, that's how they got killed. ופירוש רש"י, and Rashi explains over there, במים דמו לעבדם והם נבדו במים. It says they wanted to kill the Jews through water, throwing the boys into the Nile, and that's how measure for measure God took revenge from them. שזהו כללות העניין של מידה כנגד מידה. This is what it means, measure for measure. הרי מובן בפשטות שהעונש על ההנהגה של עזבני הוא ועזבתים. So this is the, when we leave God immediately does measure against measure. You leave me, I leave you. מידה כנגד מידה, measure for measure. Let's see the source of what I just said in source number 2. This is in Exodus. ויספר משה לחתנו את כל אשר עשה השם לפרעה למצרים. That Moshe told his father-in-law everything that God did to Paro and to Egypt, על אודות ישראל, את כל התלאה שמצאתם. He told them about this, all the plagues, all the evil things on the way, and how God saved them. ויאמר יתרו, and then Yitro's response was, אתה ידעתי כי גדול השם מכל אלוהים. Now I know that God is greatest from all other gods. Why? Measure for measure, כי בדבר אשר זדו עליהם. The way they wanted to kill the Jews, that's how God took care of them. And Rashi says, כי בדבר אשר זדו, כתרגומו במים דמים לעבדה ולא במים. They wanted to kill us through water, and that's how they died. Okay. So, let's go even deeper now. So Rashi explains to us that God is still here. He's just acting like he doesn't see. הביאור בדברי רש"י, so the explanation is the word of Rashi, כמו שאיני רואה בצרתם. It is as if I don't see their trouble. Page number 4. מאחר, and look at the verse, exactly at the words. לשון הפסוק, the verse states the words, והסתרתי פניי מהם, and I hide my face from them. Not just I will hide my face. I will hide my face from them. I'm still looking, my face is still there, they just don't see it. And it doesn't say, כיסיתי פניי, I covered my face. It doesn't say the words, I covered my face. וכיוצא בזה, and similar. בהכרח לומר שהפירוש בזה הוא כמו שאיני רואה בצרתם. It's I hid my face from them. When in relationship to them, I hid my face. But I'm actually looking. I'm actually with them. ולא שאיני רואה בצרתם ממש חס ושלום. Not that I don't see their trouble. I'm looking. I'm here all the time. והביאור בזה. So the explanation. החילוק שבין כיסוי הפנים ובין הסתרת הפנים, what's the difference between covering the face and between hiding the face? שכאשר מכסה את פניו, that when you are covering your face, נפעל שינוי לא רק בנוגע לזולת. Something changes not only for the person who's looking at you. Somebody changes with you. You don't see them anymore when you hide your face. Yeah? שהזולת אינו רואה אותו, אלא גם בנוגע לפניו שהם מכוסים, then your own face becomes covered. מה שאין כן כאשר מסתיר את פניו, but when you, let's call it camouflage your face, in other your face is right there, they just don't see it. הרי השינוי הוא רק אצל הזולת. Then it only, for the Jewish people the difference is, you're still looking just like you looked before. שאינו רואה את הפנים, that the Jewish people don't see God's face. אבל בנוגע לפנים עצמם לא נפעל שינוי כלל, but God's face is right there as before. It's just camouflage, it cannot be seen. Where do we find an example of covering the face? So let's take an example. ובדוגמת המסווה שמצינו אצל משה רבנו. Let's look at the covering that we find that by Moshe. שזהו עניין של כיסוי הפנים. By Moshe, when he had too much light and the nation couldn't look upon him, it says that he put on a mask because there was too much light. ולא הסתר בלבד. What does it mean when he put a mask on? הרי זה פועל שינוי בפנים עצמם. It made a difference to Moshe itself. By the way, the Zohar explains what difference it made in Moshe. We're not going to get into it in this class. But the difference it made in Moshe is that he wasn't Jewish anymore. That's what the Zohar says. That Moses wasn't Jewish. What does it mean he wasn't Jewish? We know that all the commandments applies to all Jews all the time. We know one of the most basic commandments is be fruitful and multiply. Right? By the way, this is the commandment that Aaron and Miriam came to Moshe, and Moshe divorced his wife when he only had 2 sons. And fruitful and multiply, you have to have a boy and a girl to be fruitful and multiply. So they complained to Moshe and they told us, what are you doing? We're also prophets. We're also Jews. What, are you not Jewish? And what did God say told Moshe and Aaron and Miriam? No, he's not like everybody else. The statement is not like everybody else is, he is not you. He has a mask that separates his status and your status. We're not going to get into that. Yeah, it's not our class right now, but just understand that the mask separates the person himself. הרי זה פועל שינוי בפנים עצמם. It causes a difference in Moshe himself. שהפנים מכוסים. Now his face is covered. ומאחר שלשון הכתוב הוא הסתרתי פניי, and over here it doesn't say that God hid his face with a mask. He says he camouflaged his face for them. You know, he's still looking at them. הוא מפרש רש"י כמו שאינו רואה בצרתם. This is what Rashi goes out of the way. It's as if he doesn't see the trouble. Obviously he sees it. היינו, שלמען האמת בוודאי שהקדוש ברוך הוא רואה צרתם. It means that God is exactly with them just like before. אלא שראייתו של הקדוש ברוך הוא היא באופן של הסתרתי פניי, שנדמה לבני ישראל שהקדוש ברוך הוא אינו רואה בצרתם. It's only the Jewish people who think that God is not there. וכמובן גם מדיוק הלשון והסתרתי פניי מהם. And just like it says, and I hid my face from them specifically, not from me, from them, היינו שהוסתר אך ורק כלפי בני ישראל. It only was a concealment towards the Jewish people. That it appears as if he doesn't see the trouble. Page number 5. So what does we learn from this concept now? What's the idea? What is Rashi trying to convey over here? There's a deep message that Rashi is trying to convey to us that we can use right now before Rosh Hashanah. והנה בעניין זה מצינו נחמה גדולה ביותר לבני ישראל. Now we find a great solace for the Jewish people right now. כאשר בני ישראל נמצאים בזמן הגלות, when the Jewish people find themselves in exile, like the time we are right now, ומעמדם ומצבם באופן של והיה לאכול ומצאו רעות רבות וצרות, we've seen it on our own flesh in the last year, that only trouble can find the Jewish people, עד שנדמה להם שהקדוש ברוך הוא אינו רואה בצרתם. The Jewish people could say, where was God? Isn't he here? Doesn't he see? It's as if, to us it appears, how can he let all these young people just get slaughtered like lambs over there? Where is he? So to us it looks as if he's not looking. הנה על זה אומר רש"י, so Rashi tells us immediately, don't get despondent. כאילו, that's right. It is as if he doesn't see. You should know that God makes himself to you as if he doesn't see. בכף הדמיון בלבד. היינו שזהו רק שנדמה להם שהקדוש ברוך הוא אינו רואה בצרתם. It is as if we imagine that God doesn't see our troubles. אבל זהו עניין שנוגע לבו עצמו, but you should know that God not only sees it, he is troubled by it deeply, more than we are. וכמו שכתוב, how do we know this? Because it says, בכל צרתם לא צר. It says, in all their trouble, he is also troubled. He is also oppressed. זאת אומרת, and this is also we're going to combine it with this week's parshas, לאחרי שלומדים את התוכחה של פרשת בחוקותיי, והתוכחה של פרשת כי תבוא, after last week we read the תוכחה, the rebuke, the terrible things that God will do, people are saying this, people get despondent, where's God? He's not looking at us, he's not with us. ולאחרי זה לומדים בפרשת וילך שישנו מעמד ומצב שהסתרתי פניי, and then we're going to read this verse that we just read, that God hides his face. צריך רש"י להדגיש, רש"י wants to emphasize, guys, don't think that God left the building. God is looking at us and is with us just as if he was here before. There's no difference. It's only to us it appears as if he is not here. שזהו רק כמו שאיני רואה בצרתם. היינו שכך זה נדמה לבני ישראל. It says, this is what you think. אבל האמת היא, but the truth היא, שבכל צרתם לא צר, that God is suffering together with us. היינו, שהקדוש ברוך הוא נמצא במעמד ומצב של עצבות ומרירות הכי גדולה בגלל צרתם של בני ישראל. God is crying right now together with us. And what does that mean? Especially now, especially in Elul. ומאחר שהסיבה לכך, so think what happened. When did God hide his face? At the moment that we did something, that we left him. It says, because we say, God, we don't need you, that's when God appears as if he does. It says, I'll appear to you as if you don't need me. You know, like a small child when he's going to do a dangerous thing, he tells his father, Father, I don't need you, right? Don't hold my hand. And the father is like behind him, almost on the coat, so he doesn't fall. And he says, you don't want me to hold your hand? I'm not going to hold your hand. Go. But the father is right there. It says, it's not like he says, I don't need you, and the father goes away. The same thing is God. The child doesn't know that the father is there, right there with him, in pain if something is going to go wrong. He's right there to hold him. Yeah? And how did it happen? At the moment the child says, Father, I don't need you anymore, so the father says, no problem, but he's still behind him. He's right there. It happened in one moment. 1 second, the father gave him his hand, and the next second, the child said, I don't need your hand, Father. So the father let go of the hand, but he's watching. You can grab him in 2 seconds, right? That's what it is. כי משום שהנהגת בני ישראל הייתה באופן של עזבני. It says, God didn't decide to leave us. We told him, let go. That's what we did it. We told God, let go. So God appears now as if he let go. מובן בפשטות שעל ידי זה אינה comes. How long did it take for us to leave God? A millisecond, a split of a second. How long does it take to come back? The same millisecond. It takes the same millisecond that it took to leave him. It says, when the child goes like this, what will the father do? Immediately grab his hand. When the child is about to fall and go like this, immediately the father will grab his hand. And when the child will say, Father, I need you, immediately God will take his hand. And if the child doesn't say, I need you, God makes sure that he realizes that he needs God. But every Jew today in America realizes that without God, we're in trouble here in America. Yeah? שעל ידי זה שבני ישראל שווים ופונים לקדוש ברוך הוא. That the Jewish people say, God, you know, we had a mistake. Before we told you, stay away, everything is doing fine. Now we realize if you stay away, it's not going to be fine. God, we need you again. At that moment, God is here again. מתבטל תכף ומיד העניין של ברגע קטן עזבתיך. Just like in 1 second he left us, in 1 second he's going to come back with us. Page 6. ומאחר שכללות עניין התשובה היא בשעה אחת וברגע אחת, and since we already learned that tshuva is done in 1 second, Now, in tshuva, there's many, many levels. By the way, we're not having a class about tshuva over here, but everybody knows that tshuva is a person needs to leave the sin and he needs to fix whatever he messed up. Over here, the guy didn't leave the sin and he didn't fix. There's a halacha. A halacha in Shulchan Aruch, a very strange halacha. The halacha goes like this. There's a thief, a guy who makes his living as a thief. That's how he makes a living. And he got married today. Today is his marriage. And he walks down the aisle, together with the bride. Him and the bride are walking down the aisle. And he's a thief. He's a thief. So what does he do? He hugs all the guests. And when he hugs them, he takes this guy's wallet, he takes this guy's watch. That's what he does. That's his life. This is what he does, right? And he goes and he stands under the chuppah. Now he stands under the chuppah. And under the chuppah, the rabbi is going to say, and now it's the time to say, Harei at mekudeshet li. You are betrothed to me. And he makes a statement like this. He makes the statement, you are betrothed to me on condition that I'm a complete tzaddik. That's what he says. So the question the Gemara asks, is he married and is he not? And the Gemara says something which doesn't make sense. The Gemara says he's married. And immediately everybody is shouting and says, what are you talking about? He's married. He cannot be. Why? Because the halacha said that in order to do tshuva, in order to repent, you need to fix what you've done. You see the wallet sticking out of his pockets. For sure he didn't return them. And who knows if he was even sorry. Yeah? But it says this is as a fixing to the problem. The tzaddik part that is completely righteous, the tshuva of completely righteous, is achieved in a millisecond. All it requires is a change of direction. And over here, we're going to find an unbelievable concept in halacha. You can have Moshe Rabbeinu, and you can have this guy, and Moshe Rabbeinu, real Moshe Rabbeinu, King David, is right here next to God, and this guy is the furthest away from God, and God says, this guy did tshuva and Moshe Rabbeinu didn't. Because tshuva, all tshuva is in which direction you're facing. That's what tshuva is. You don't even have to make the movement. You just have to face, to have a goal. If the goal of the person is God, that's the tshuva already. You don't need the fix. He's already there. If he's going to succeed in tshuva later on or not, we discuss it later on. If he'll return the object or not. But that's already the beginning of tshuva. This is what tshuva is. It's in a second, in a millisecond it happens. It means that right now, until now, I was facing away from God. At this moment, I'm facing to God. And it's possible for King David and Moshe, who are on the highest level, right next to God, to be facing away from God. Yeah? Just like it is possible for the lowest to be facing to God, it's possible for them to be facing away, even though they're the closest. Okay. Because over here, this is the brackets over here. שהרי לא מדובר כאן על תיקון הפגמים והשלמת העניינים שחסרו בעבודתו. We're not talking about refining oneself, שזהו עניין הדרוש זמן, that this requires time. רק אודות כללות התנועה של לשוב אל השם. We're only talking about the first instant, to return, to turn around and to face God instead of facing the other way, away from God. מובן שבשעה אחת וברגע אחת שבאים שווים בני ישראל אל הקדוש ברוך הוא. From here we understand that the Jewish people can return to God in 1 second. ובדרך ממילא מתבטל תכף ומיד העניין שברגע קטן עזבתיך ומיד אין מגיעים. So immediately we're going to be redeemed. Let's look at... The Rebbe continues in this thing. He doesn't leave it the way it is. The Rebbe now, just like the way he is, he says to God, God, it's not fair. It's not fair what you did to the Jewish people. You're not fair, God. And we're going to see. In other words, the Rebbe says, you you put a stumbling block in front of the Jewish people on purpose. It's almost as if God wanted them to fail. It says, that's what you did to the Jewish people. It says, I know your tricks, the Rebbe says. You are intended for them to fail. That's why they failed. Because you wanted the third temple. In order to have the third temple, you needed the destruction of the second, or the first. Yeah, that's why it happened. That's what pretty much the Rebbe says over here. But let's see, what does it mean? Let's see. In source number 3, it says, this is in Eicha Rabbah, it says, Hashivenu Hashem elecha venashuva. We tell God, God, you want us to do tshuva? Make us do tshuva and we'll do tshuva. Look how strange it is. It says, you want us to do tshuva? You start. Your responsibility. In other words, when you return us to you, then we'll return. In other words, we're not returning before you do the first. You know, the whole relationship of God and the Jewish people is the relationship of a husband and a wife. When you fight with the wife, who has to say sorry first? The husband has to say sorry first. You know why it says it in all the books, Jewish and non-Jewish, that this is a thing that the husband has to say, I'm sorry. Whether you did wrong or you didn't do wrong, it doesn't matter. You have to say, I'm sorry. Where does it come? It comes from here. When there's a disagreement between God and the Jewish nation, we tell God, you start. You start being nice first, then we'll be nice. Yeah? That's what we tell God. And this is why it comes down into the world this way. אמרה כנסת ישראל לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא, the Jewish people said in front of God, ריבונו של עולם, שלך הוא השיבנו. It says, it is your responsibility to bring us back. In other words, if we had a fight, you fix it. You're the man. Yeah, who's the man? You're the man. You fix it. Right? It's your responsibility. It's your family. You're the man of the house. Right? Man of the house, he fixes the house. אמר להם שלכם הוא. So God says, no, I'm not going to say sorry first. You say sorry first. Husband and wife. They're chit-chatting. שנאמר, because it says, look at the verse, שובה אליי ואשובה אליכם, נאום השם. God says, I'll show you another verse. Why are you bringing this verse? There's another verse that says, when you return to me, I will return to you. It says, you bring me these verses, I'll bring you these verses. Now we can continue the argument. אמרה לפניו, so the Jewish people said in front of God, ריבונו של עולם, שלך הוא. It says, no. God, it's your responsibility, not ours, to do the first step. It says, shuvenu elokei ishenu. It says, restore us, God of our salvation. לכך נאמר. Therefore, our verse is stronger than your verse. And then our verse says, Hashivenu Hashem elecha. There's a third verse that says, God, you return us to you, and then we'll return. In other words, you are the first. So there was an argument between God and the Jewish people. Who's going to say sorry first? Who's going to do the first move? And the conclusion that the Jewish people came with God says, you're the man, first move is yours. And it continues. In other words, right now in Elul, the question is, who should say sorry first? Should he awaken us? Which in every Elul you see to yourself, there's a different feeling in the air. God awakens us a little. Everybody feels it. It smells different. Yeah, it smells different. In other words, God does the first step, and that's why we start working on ourselves. But it's furthermore, יתרה מזו, טענת בני ישראלי, the Jewish people are going to start complaining to God. שתעצם האפשרות שהנהגה תהיה באופן של עזבני. It says, God, do you know why we left you? Do you know why we had those feelings that we don't need you anymore? It's your fault. Your fault. You did it. We didn't do it. You did it. How come the entire nation thinks they can live without God? You know why? You're at fault. What's the fault? What did God do wrong? הרי זה בסיבת היעדרו של משה רבנו. God, It says when it's going to happen. You know when it's going to happen? It's going to happen when the Jewish people are not going to have a leader. When there's no Moshe Rabbeinu, this is what's going to happen. By the way, it didn't happen, the statement did not start happening until Yeshua passed away. It only, because Yeshua was almost a reflection of Moshe. So Moshe still existed within Yeshua. But after Yeshua, that's when it started happening. After Yeshua passed away. These things started happening. In other words, when the Jewish people don't have a proper leader, this is what happens. And we say to God, God, how can you blame us? If we had a Moshe, we wouldn't do it. And the fact that you took Moshe away from us, now you expect us to feel godliness? We don't feel godliness without Moshe. When Moshe was around, we felt godliness. When Moshe is not around, it's harder to feel godliness. How can you blame us? וכמו שכתוב בפרשתנו, and just like we read in the beginning, ויאמר השם אל משה, and God said to Moshe, הנך שוכב עם אבותיך. It says, when is this going to take place? Only after you pass away. After you get buried. Only then, וקם העם הזה וזנח אלוקי נכר הארץ ועזבני. Only then they're going to go into the idols and leave me. אבל אם הקדוש ברוך הוא לא היה לוקח מהם את משה רבנו, but if God wouldn't take Moshe Rabbeinu from us, then it wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have left him. In other words, we actually tell him, God, you know why it's your responsibility? It's your responsibility because you changed the deal. We had a deal. What was the deal? That we're going to have a leader, and the leader is going to lead us into the land of Israel. And what did you do? You took our leader away. And now you expect us to be as dedicated to the cause as if we have a leader. We don't have a leader. You changed the terms of the deal and now you complain? So you fix it. That's what we tell God. Moshe Rabbeinu hu raya mehemna. Moshe is the faithful shepherd. Ro'an shel Israel is the shepherd of the Jewish people. וישנה הבטחה שרועה אמיתי לא יעזוב את צאן מרעיתו. And you promised us that the shepherd doesn't leave the flock. And what did you do? You went against the deal. It's your fault, God. Your fault, you fix it. ואם כן, טוענים בני ישראל, so now the Jewish people come and complain to God, מדוע לקחו מהם את משה רבנו? Why did you take us from us, Moshe? הרי אם משה רבנו היה נמצא עמם במשך כל הזמן, if we had a leader right now, even right now, if we had a leader, לא הייתה אפשרות כלל שתהיה הנהגה באופן של עזבני. Who would leave God? Who would tell God, God, we don't need you, everything is fine? The problem is that you don't give us a leader. And the deal from the beginning is that Moshe is going to lead us into the land. You took away Moshe. So how can you blame us? So God can come back and tell the Jewish people, guys, but there's a small Moshe in each and every one of you. When Moshe passed away, I put the spark of Moshe in each and every Jew. So you can complain, you do have Moshe Rabbeinu. So we're going to tell God, no, it doesn't work this way, sorry. ואין זה מספיק. We tell God, it's not enough. מה שבכל אחד ואחד מישראל ישנו ניצוץ של משה רבנו. It's not enough that each and every one of us has a spark of Moshe within him. וכמבואן בתור האור, just like it's brought in תור האור, שכל תלמיד חכם נקרא בשם משה, that every sage can be called Moshe, כמבואר בגמרא, משה שפיר כאמרת, like it says in Gemara, let's look at the source, it's very short. אמר רב ספרא לרבא, רב ספרא come to Rava and he said to him, Moshe, he called him Moshe. His name is Rava, his name is not Moshe, but he called him Moshe. כלומר, which meant, הנך אדם גדול כמשה בדורו. It says, you're great like Moshe. And it was a true statement. It was a correct statement that he said. He is Moshe. He's got a spark of Moshe within him. So it says, maybe that was true in a guy like Rava. In Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Maybe you have in each person the spark of Moshe can come out. But in us, in each individual Jew? Go dig, see if you find the Moshe in us. It's not that easy. And the Rebbe explained, כי עניין זה אינו בגילוי אצל כל אחד ואחד מישראל. That spark of Moshe is not revealed within each and every Jew. And if you want it to be revealed, צריכים להתייגע על זה. You need to really put a lot of effort into it. זאת אומרת, that means, אף על פי, even though we all know the verse, תורה ציווה לנו משה, the Torah that Moshe commanded us, in other words, that you wanted to reveal the Moshe in you, you need to learn Torah. That's how you reveal one's Moshe. אף על פי כן, בהכרח להתייגע בלימוד התורה, where we're not talking about reading 5 lines of a year or half an hour over there. We mean that you have a headache every time you learn, that you break your head like crazy. It means real work in the Torah. ומאחר שאין זה בגילוי, and since not everybody is like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to learn Torah on such a level, לכן צריכים את משה רבנו בפועל. That's why we need a person like Moshe Rabbeinu, at least one in a generation, for the Jewish people to follow. כי דווקא על ידו נשללת האפשרות של עזבני, because just because of him, people are not going to make sure not to leave God. This is the whole role of what the Rebbe is. He's describing over here. ופעולתו, and this is again a misunderstanding of most people when it comes to what a Rebbe is. A Rebbe's main idea is to help the Jewish nation on their level. What does it mean when I say on their level? It's not that it's not important that people are religious. It's very important that people are religious. Take care of the soul. But when a person is hungry, when a person is thirsty, you make sure he eats. When a person doesn't have a job, our job as the Rebbe is find him a job. Don't talk to him about tefillin. Tefillin later on. He doesn't have a job right now. Don't talk to him about coming to shul on Shabbos. That's not the time right now. The time is to make sure that he has a job. The time that you make sure that he gets married. You know, when... I'll give you an example. You probably remember the Chernobyl disaster. Everybody remembers the Chernobyl disaster? So in the Chernobyl disasters, happened to be a lot of Jewish orphans that the parents passed away in that area of Chernobyl. And there was a Jewish person over there that wrote to the Rebbe, there's a lot of Jewish orphans over here, young people, and nobody is taking care of them. And he sent a letter to the Rebbe. The Rebbe sent it to the Shluchim in the land of Israel, the letter, just circled, it says nobody's helping them. Yeah? And everybody knows what happened then. What did they do? They had influence within the government, so they influenced government positions in Israel to send planes to Chernobyl to take out all the Jews from the orphanage and to bring them to Israel and to make sure they get married and to make sure they find jobs. He didn't send them to make sure that they're going to put on tefillin. That's what a leader does. A leader takes care of the Jewish. Yes, after the guy is fed, he's got a wife, you want him to have a good life. A part of a good life is also religion. That's part of good life. But it's not like, you're trying to make him religious. No, you're trying that the Jew will have a good life in his level. And this is what it says in the end over here. ופעולתו של משה רבנו בנוגע להנהגתם של בני ישראל מתבטאת, when Moshe Rabbeinu is dealing with the Jewish people, לא רק בעניינים רוחניים, it's not only in spiritual things, page number 9, אלא גם בעניינים גשמיים, it's also in physical matters. And how do we know this, that it's also in physical matters? Because while they were in the desert, they had roles. Moshe's role was to teach Torah. Miriam's role was to give the well of Miriam, the water. Aaron's role was to protect the Jewish people with the clouds of glory because of Aaron. What happened after Miriam and Aaron passed away?
They stopped the well stopped, and their neck stopped.
And what? And
Amalek came
and then
they were thirsty. There was a fight. They didn't have water.
Moshe brought it back. If you remember, that's what happened. Yeah. Sharei, and also Moshe didn't just make sure to give him the Torah. הרי בזכותו של משה רבנו ניתן לבני ישראל מן לחם מן השמיים. Because of him, they received the manna. And because of him, they were giving water and the clouds of glory. After Miriam and Aaron passed away, כמאמר רז"ל, just like our sages tells us, שחזרו שניהם בזכות משה. That when Moshe realized that there's physicality doesn't exist anymore, what did he do? He brought them back. It says now is not the time to teach Torah. Now is the time. There's no water. Now is the time to bring water. There's no protection. Now is the time to bring protection. After people are fed, after the people are healthy, after that, then we can start preaching Torah. But first, take care of the physical needs of the Jewish people. This is what a Moshe Rabbeinu is. Source number 5 is pretty much says these verses are just explained in the Torah. We're not going to read. If you want, you can read it by yourself. And just the last part. We are on page 10. וזוהי טענתם של בני ישראל. And this is what the Jewish people come to God and say to God. They say to God, God, you messed up the deal. It's true that we left you. But you know why we left you? We had a covenant. The covenant that we made with you is that there's going to come a guy, he's going to be our leader, and he's going to lead us into the land of Israel. That's what we signed on, right? And all of a sudden, you know what you did? You took away that guy, and then you ask us, and why don't you behave well? What do you mean? You took away the shepherd. You expect the flock to go the right way without a shepherd? It's your fault. So if it's your fault, you fix it. You messed up the deal, you fix the deal. It's your responsibility. So this is what the Jewish people say to God, שלולי העניין שננחה שוכב עם אבותיך, if you wouldn't have taken our leader away, הסתלקותו של משה רבינו. משה רבינו removed from the Jewish people, לא הייתה אפשרות כלל להנהגה באופן של עזבני. We would have never have left you. We would still be with you. ואם כן, הרי זה באשמתו של הקדוש ברוך הוא. So therefore it's your fault, you say sorry first. If you would have left us Moshe and then we would have messed up, yes, we would have said sorry. But you changed the rules. It's your fault. It's your fault. You say sorry first. ועל פי זה, so according to this, but by the way, only the Rebbe can talk this way to God. ועל פי זה, מובן שצריכים את משה רבינו, and according to this, it's understood that we need the Moshe, בפועל כפשוטו, we need Mashiach. Without Mashiach, it's not going to go well. ובאופן שעל ידו נמשכים גם העניינים הגשמי של ישראל. And not only a Mashiach for spiritual things, also a Mashiach for physical things. That it's going to be good. That all the Jews are going to be healthy. And up to here.
Also, Israel left God.
Mm-hmm.
Just because Moshe was a little bit late.
Exactly the same thing. Once Moshe leaves, that's where they go. And as soon as Moshe came back, everybody says, okay.
So you can say that either everything is God's fault, and He could make us perfect, but He chose to give us free will. Or
the problem is that we had a deal and God changed the deal. The deal was that a leader is going to lead us into the land. In other words, we need a leader. Without a leader, you can't expect you can't expect a flock to go the right way without a leader. Yes, you can expect them because you can put a spark of the leader in each and every one. But to get the spark out, in other words, everybody can be Benoni of Tanya. It says. And you can understand how you can be Benoni of Tanya. But you look around, how many people are Benoni of Tanya? It's not that it's not possible. It's possible. But not many people are going to make it. Same thing over here. Without a leader, it's not going to go well. That's the idea behind it.